Good morning, everyone. Today, my member and I, which is Emmanuel, Grace, Cynthia, Ashikin, and I, John, will be presenting ECO2105 Principle of Macroeconomics. First of all, we will review Malaysia's economy's performance from 2020 to 2024. The COVID-19 pandemic led to significant contraction in 2020, but with government support, vaccinations efforts, and the easing of restrictions, the economy shows signs of recovery. Key sectors like manufacturing, service, and constructions were impacted differently and had varying recovery rates. So the slide 3 will talk about year of GDP gross domestic product, start from 2020 economic to 2024. In 2020, Malaysia's GDP shrank by 5.6% due to the pandemic. The most affected sectors were constructions, which dropped by 19.4%, and mining, which declined by 10.6%. Selangor and WP Kuala Lumpur were hit hardest, contributing to 66.7% of the total GDP decline. In 2021, economic recovery. Malaysia economy rebounded in 2021, growing by 3.1%. The manufacturing sector led the recovery with 9.5% growth, driven by electronics and chemicals. Services also grew by 1.9%, while agriculture declined slightly by 0.2%. Government measures and vaccination efforts helped boost recovery in regions like Selangor and WP Kuala Lumpur. While 2022 gets strong economic growth, 2022 saw a strong recovery, which Malaysia economy growing by 8.7%. Services experienced a significant rebound, growing by 10.9%, while manufacturing expanded by 8.1%, boosted by global demand for electronics and semiconductors. The construction sectors also recovered, growing by 5%. Domestic support programs help drive consumer spending. Next is 2023. It makes slower growth because in 2023 Malaysia's economy grew by 3.6%, a slowdown compared to the previous year. Services grew by 5.1%, while manufacturing growth slowed to 0.7%. Construction saw a stronger growth of 6.1%, but global factors affected overall growth, especially in manufacturing and agriculture. So the last of it is 2024, continued growth. Malaysia's economy grew by 5.1% in 2024. The services sectors continue its strong performance, growing by 5.3%, while manufacturing grew by 4.3%, supported by technology and oil exports. The construction sector saw significant growth at 19.6%. However, agriculture and mining sectors face challenges, with both shrinking. So the last is conclusion. Overall economics performance from 2020 to 2024. So from 2020's 5.6% contractions, Malaysia's economy recovered to 5.1% 1% growth in 2024. The key drivers of growth were services, manufacturing and constructions, through agriculture and mining faced some struggles. Overall, Malaysia's economy has shown strong recovery, but global uncertainties remain as challenges for future growth. Thank you. So the next will be Emmanuel present. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so I'll be presenting my part, which is question 2. So the 5 objectives for macroeconomy is, firstly is to achieve full employment, second is to achieve price stability, third is to achieve economic growth, fourth is to achieve equitable distribution of income, and lastly is to achieve equilibrium in the foreign sector. So as for full employment, the highest unemployment rate ever recorded for the 5 past years is 5.3%, which is during 2020, and the lowest is 3.1%, which is also the latest unemployment rate is 3.1%. And so far Malaysia has achieved that objective, because the ideal unemployment rate for a country is 5%, and Malaysia has achieved lower than that, so Malaysia did achieve full employment. And next is price stability. The ideal inflation rate for a country is 2 to 3%, and the highest deflation rate that is recorded is negative 2.9%, which is back in April and May of 2020. The highest inflation rate is 4.7%, which is at April of 2021. And the latest record is 1.7%, which Malaysia almost achieved the ideal inflation rate. And as for this picture here, this picture shows the price of a cup of teh tarik around Malaysia. So the lowest price of a teh tarik in Malaysia is at Perak Tengah, which is recorded at 1 ringgit and 35 cents, and the highest is 3 ringgit 50 cents, which is in Beluru and Belaga. And for economic growth, the ideal GDP for a country is 2 to 3% as well, and the highest GDP rate ever recorded for Malaysia is 16.3% during the second quarter of 2021, and the latest GDP for Malaysia is 5%. So far, Malaysia has not yet to achieve the ideal GDP rate. And now we're going to the equitable distribution of income. So the ideal rate for this category is 0%, and anything that is more than 0.4% is considered high already for this category. So the Gini coefficient of Malaysia shows that Malaysia has a percentage over 0.4, which is 0.47. And as that being said, Malaysia has not achieved this objective yet. And the difference of income between races is also a issue, which is Bumi Putra and Chinese has a difference of 1 to 0.71, and Chinese and Indians has a difference of 1 to 0.84. As for the equilibrium of the foreign sector, Malaysia has used 16.2 billion in the first quarter of 2024, which shows that Malaysia has achieved the equilibrium in the foreign sector.
Hello, my name is Cynthia. Today I'm going to present the current employment rates and labor force in 2024. In 2024, Malaysia labor force has grown to 17.3 million people, and the employment rate is 3.1%. This is showing this employment rate is improving. Let's looking back to the 2014. The labor force was 14.3 million and it has stabilities increasing. The highest employment rate was 4.7% in 2021. It is during the COVID-19 crisis. After that, the employment rate has dropped to 3.1%. This is reflecting to the economy recovery. Also, I will going to present the labor force and employment trends in 2014 to 2024. It is three trends. The first trend is 2014 to 2019. The economy was stable with the labor force growing from 14.3 million to 15.8 million and employment staying around 3.3%. Also, after that is 2020 to 2021. The COVID-19 pandemic causes the job loss, pushing the employment up to 4.7% in 2021. The last trend is 2022 to 2024. The economy will recover and the business reopens and the labor force expanded to 7.3 million while the unemployment fell to the 3.1%. Also, I will present the current labor force participant rate. Malaysia labor force participant rate is 70.6% in November 2024. It is the highest in the history. This means more people are neither working or effectively looking for the job. Let's look into the past trend. In 2014 to 2019, the labor force participant rate increased gradually from 67.5% to 68.7%. In 2020, due to the COVID-19, it dropped slightly to 68.4%. Also, in 2021 to the 2024, the economy was recovered and the labor force participant rate is a sharp rise to 70.6%. In the other hand, I'm also going to present why did the employment, labor force and labor force participant rate change. First of it is economic growth and recovery, new business and industry create jobs. Also, the COVID-19 impact in 2020 to 2021, lockdown forced many businesses to close, increasing the unemployment. The last of it is government policy. Wages subsidies and training program helps people find jobs. LFPR growth will increase the labor force. When more people participate in the workforce, the labor force also will increase unless the working age population was decreased. Lastly, I will going to present the government strategy supporting workforce growth. The government played a big role in helping the labor market recovers. The key of it is job trainings and upskilling, teaching people's digital and automation skill. Also, wage subsidies encourage companies to hire more workers. Last of it is women's and youth employment program, supporting gender equalities and fresh graduates. Thanks for these efforts, employment lowers and more people are working. In the conclusions, Malaysia labor force grew from 14.3 million in 2014 to 17.3 million in 2024. Employment fell from 4.7% in 2021 to 3.1% in 2024. And the LFPR reached a record 70.6% in 2024, showing strong workforce participation. This reflects the positive economic growth and a strong job market for the future.
Now I will talk about the two main group items from the Consumer Price Index Monthly Report. First is the food and non-alcoholic beverages. This category usually carries considerable influence in the CPI as it represents crucial household items and spending. The monthly inflation rate for this category in 2024 displayed moderate variations due to global commodity prices, seasonal influences, and government actions. First, let's take a look at the global commodity prices. The fluctuating prices for essential materials such as wheat, rice, and cooking oil will ultimately affect the food expenses. For example, the geopolitical conflicts in the Middle East interrupted supply chains. It's resulting in price increases. Secondly is the seasonal influences. Holiday periods like Ramadan and Eid will lead to a rise in the demand for food items, resulting in brief price increases. Lastly is the government actions. The financial aid and price regulations on essential foods contributed to price stabilization during specific months. Moving on to transportation, the transportation expenses are affected by fuel costs, which are closely linked to international crude oil markets. Its crucial elements influencing this category in 2024 comprise the oil price fluctuations. For example, the persistent geopolitical turmoil in the Middle East resulted in changing crude oil prices, which caused inconsistent fuel expenses. Secondly is the policy modifications. The Malaysian government's changes to fuel subsidies or taxes also affected transportation inflation rates. Lastly is the public transport expenses. The adjustments to public transport rates influence variations in this sector. Now, the food and non-alcoholic beverages group experienced steady inflation throughout 2024, with occasional spikes during festive periods and global supply chain disruptions. However, the transportation group showed higher volatility due to its dependence on external factors like global oil prices and government policies.
My name is Grace and now I'm going to talk about the price index for Malaysia for the past 20 years. So from 2012 to 2015, the CPI became higher. It grew by 1.6% to reach 105.5 in 2012. Due to changes in the global economy, reduction in subsidies, and rising gasoline and food prices, it had risen 2.7% to 111.8 by the end of 2014. Due to changes in oil prices and economic reforms, the CPI rose to 114.8 in 2015. From 2016 to 2019, inflation was constant. 2016 had a 2.1% increase in CPI to 116.9, while showed a 3.7% increase to 120.9. Inflation declined in 2018 and 2019, with the consumer price index reaching 122.3 by the end of 2019. Prices were first raised by the goods and services tax such as GST, which was introduced in 2015. However, inflation stabilized in 2018 when the sales and services tax such as SST was implemented. The COVID-19 epidemic causes the CPI to fall 1.5% to 120.6 in 2020 years. The pandemic causes economic slowdowns and supply chain breakdown. In 2021 years, however, it soared 4.7% in April before falling to 2.5% for the rest of the year. By 2022, the CPI had risen by 3.3% to 127.2, owing to economic recovery and rising international prices in 2023 and 2024. Inflation decreased by 2.5% and 1.8% accordingly, and by December 2024 years, the CPI had risen to 133.4. This decrease was caused in part by slower rises in food and lodging costs. Next, I'm going to talk about the several factors influence Malaysia's CPI. From 2020 to 2015 years, economic growth was steady, but the 2008 years fiscal crisis and Eurozone debt crisis affected export demand. Oil prices significantly impacted inflation. The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted supply chains and consumer spending, increasing price pressures. Inflation from 2021 to 2024 years was influenced by rising commodity prices and global economic uncertainty. Government policies play an important role in CPI changes. The introduction of GST in 2015 increased, while its replacement with SST in 2018 aimed to lower costs. Fuel subsidy elimination in 2013 raised costs while connecting fuel pricing to global oil prices in 2014. Produced CPI instability. Bank Negara Malaysia raised interest rates to combat inflation, which impact consumption and pricing. Malaysia's CPI was directly impacted by commodity prices, especially those of food and oil. Higher oil prices increased government revenue, but they also raised production and expenses, resulting in inflation. Inflation rates were impacted by food prices, which were reliant on imports and the international market. CPI trends were also influenced by consumer demand. Between 2012 and 2015, economic expansion fueled expenditure, which raised inflation from 2016 to 2019. Policy measures included lowering demand, reducing inflation, and changing taxes and subsidies. Prices were lowered by the 2020 pandemic's impact on demand, although subsequent years' recovery was aided by government stimulus measures. Exchange rates and global economic conditions also impact inflation. A weaker Malaysian ringgit increased the cost of imports, raising inflation, and a stronger ringgit served to keep prices steady from 2012 to 2015. The ringgit fell in value following the 2008 fiscal crisis, adding to inflation. Between 2016 and 2019, currency changes related to global oil prices continue to have an impact on inflation. So, in conclusion, Malaysia's CPI has been influenced by global economic trends, government policies, commodity prices, and consumer demand. Effective management of these issues is critical for keep inflation under control and maintaining economic stability.